I'm Russ Rolling, and this is my audience.
Hi.
And me.
Civil rights activist, environmentalist, women's rights supporter, corruption buster. Sound like a pretty interesting politician? Actually, he was a pretty interesting politician in 1900. The Madison area is surrounded with landmarks that hold his name, and most of you have probably heard it. This is about Robert M LaFollette Sr., a famous politician who I did a little bit of research on after learning about him through a history class that I took in college. In this speech, I'm going to tell you about his early life and his entry into politics, his tenure as the governor of the state of Wisconsin, and later in his life as he entered the U.S. Senate as a Wisconsin senator and even ran for president of the United States. So let's travel back in the time and learn a little bit about Fightin' Bob LaFollette, who we see over here. He was born June 14, 1855, to a fairly prosperous farm family, but he learned about difficulty early in life as his father had an untimely death and the family was forced to sell their farm to be able to survive. Still, LaFollette was able to go off to college at the University of Wisconsin and graduated in 1879. According to the authors of the famouspeople.com, he was a pretty average student while he was at the university. Yet, after only 1 year in law school, he managed to pass the bar. He started his own law practice in Wisconsin, and in the year 1884 actually ran for state senate and was elected. According to biography.com, he pretty much followed the party line as a Republican throughout his terms as a senator in the state, and in 1890 he lost the election to another candidate. So while LaFollette's early political career was pretty unremarkable, it was soon to come that we would learn about his real progressive tendencies. In 1891, LaFollette exposed a bribe offer from a Senator Philetus Sawyer to fix a court case that LaFollette was involved in. According to Claude Bowers in his biography, Robert M LaFollette by Lee Case LaFollette and Fola LaFollette, his wife said that at this point in time, LaFollette, quote, threw down the glove to privilege. LaFollette decided to get back into politics, and he ran for the governor of the state of Wisconsin, losing the election in 1896 and in 1898, but finally winning the election in 1900. He began to push his progressive style in politics as governor, and one of the first things that he used was what he called public roll calls, telling the rest of the community what the voting records were for all of the legislators in the state. And he used this to help support his progressive platform. Another thing he created during this time was a system that later became known as the Wisconsin idea. LaFollette actually had political science academics creating legislation and drafting it to be able to put in front of Congress. So while his term in governor as a governor of Wisconsin pretty much showed that he was going to be a progressive, it was his time as a senator and later as a presidential candidate that actually solidified his progressive politics. According to biography.com, in 1906, LaFollette actually nominated himself to become a senator, U.S. senator from the state of Wisconsin, and he won the election. After winning the election, he resigned his position as governor and he began his progressive crusades. His crusades were against dismantling big business trusts, protecting the environment, giving striking laborers a chance in the court system, and creating equality for both race and gender. He vehemently opposed the U.S. involvement in World War I, and after World War I was over, he fought valiantly to prevent corporate corruption taking advantage of the after-war situation. Eventually, he actually ran for president, And in 1924, he lost the election to Calvin Coolidge. And according to the editors of thefamouspeople.com, the campaign took a physical and a spiritual toll on him. And just less than 1 year later, Robert M LaFollette died on June 18, 1925, 4 days after his 70th birthday. So he led a long and interesting career, and he left behind quite a legacy. Through his early life, his introduction to politics and his time in his office as governor, through his tenure as a senator and even as a presidential candidate, Robert M LaFollette Sr. created an enduring name as a leader and as a progressive politician. There may be politicians today who will reach the level of notoriety that LaFollette did, but very few will ever create such a legacy. In a speech that LaFollette delivered in Washington, D.C. in 1924, the website speeches-usa.com recounts one of his greatest quotes. "America is not made, but it is in the making. Mere citizenship is not enough. Men must be an aggressive for what is right, so that government has a chance against the aggressiveness for what is wrong." I kind of agree with him, and I hope you do too. Thank you.